Today is part 2 of a commentary on a video by Chatfield about evolution starring a Christian professor and the intelligent design creationist weirdos. If you haven't seen part 1, don't worry about it. This one stands independently of that one, and let's see what we can do with this.
And so I love that my man is using real scientific technology to make a point of like this. All of this testifies to who God is and to the...
He isn't, though. He isn't using anything scientific whatsoever here. He's just making assertions. Assertions that, by the way, are wrong.
Nature of he created the world the way that he said that he created the world. It's like it's not a secret. So anyway, pretty interesting.
And we have other evidences such as alpha decay that we do in our program that most people don't understand that also shows that the earth is 6,000 years old. So that's the second postulate that proves that the biblical story of creation is true.
Well, why don't you explain that for us, Christian professor, so we can understand it better? Come on, Christian professor, don't let us down, my guy.
Life that we see today are the basic kinds of animals and plant life that were originally created. So we can test that. You can...
What does that mean? What are you saying here?
Breed dogs, you can breed cats, but you can't breed cats with dogs. So there are limits to how far we can go.
Oh my god, Cap looks so satisfied by this. But this is so unsatisfying if you understand how it works. Evolutionarily and naturalistically, we would not expect cats and dogs to be able to breed. We just wouldn't. That's not how that works.
That's true.
And lastly, that is, Earth experienced a worldwide flood in approximately 2500 BC.
I like how the caption thinks at 25 BC. So, I mean, you know... Augustus Caesar was alive for the great flood of Noah. You'd think he would have said something about it.
1656 years after the world was created. The world is filled with limestone. Limestone is sedimentary rock. It precipitates out of water. The entire earth was filled with water.
Where'd it go? Where'd all that water go? Did it just fly off into space or something? I'd like to know where it went, if there was enough water to cover every mountain peak on Earth. Huh. Well... You'd think, we'd be able to find it.
Every mountain chain in the world, including Everest, has sea life on top of that mountain.
Hey, that's called plate tectonics. It turns out that most mountains on the Earth today were previously under the water. Who would have guessed? Go figure.
The mountains rose out of the water.
Whoa.
Yes, the mountains did rise out of the water, but not because of a global flood, because of plate tectonics.
Did my man just say that even Mount Everest has sea life on top of the mountain? Think about it. If the story of Noah is true, if God flooded the whole...
Isn't Mount Everest quite young? I mean, like, as far as mountains go, let's see. How old is Mount Everest? See, Cap, it may not make for the best content, but this is what you should be doing. Anytime you hear a claim like this, you should be searching to find out more about this claim. So it turns out Mount Everest is about 60 million years old or something like that. Yeah. What ultimately formed Mount Everest about 60 million years ago was the rapid movement of India northwards towards the continent of Eurasia, or Eurasia as we call it. So yes, it was at one point under the water, in fact. And that was like during the era of the dinosaurs. So yes, it makes sense that you'd find things from the sea on Mount Everest. It's very new, as geologically speaking. I mean, the Earth's been around 4.5 billion years. Mount Everest has only existed in the last 60 million, so pretty new.
Earth, as the Bible preaches and teaches, then that would be true, right? If every square inch of planet Earth, even Mount Everest, was covered in water, then there would be sea life at the top of Mount Everest. I haven't seen that personally. If that's true, though...
checkmate atheists. I bet you don't have any explanations for that.
That is so crazy.
Sea life on top of that mountain. The mountains rose out of the water, so we know that there was a worldwide flood.
Let me pose a question to you, and Mark and Lise, feel free to jump in this. And that is this. Most people who don't believe in God aren't card-carrying members of the atheist club.
Wait, there's an atheist club and nobody told me I could get a free card? Oh my god, you have all disappointed me so much. How dare all of you follow me and not tell me about the atheist club where I can get a card? This sucks.
They haven't studied molecular biology.
Yes.
Why don't they believe in God? What is this?
Because you can be skeptical of what somebody else is saying without yourself having an answer or an explanation. I mean, let me just tell you like this. I came from a super fundamentalist family. They were always telling me God created the world, and I was just like, something about that doesn't sound right. I don't know if I buy that. And this was from a very early age. Like, I mean, 4 or 5, they would tell me this stuff, and I'd just be like, uh, hmm, uh, and they'd tell me about the global flood, and something would just not sound right about it. Just like a global flood that every human on Earth, except for like 8, were unalived by God. Something about that doesn't sound right. All of these stories they would tell me from a young age, I was just like, yeah, I don't know about that. And then, some years later, I found out about ideas like evolution and the Big Bang. And suddenly it made sense because it was like, yes, yes, that's the stuff. That's the ticket. That's what I've been looking for. That doesn't sound completely insane and deranged.
Struggle there?
Neil, I'm going to tell you, that's a very good question. My answer to that is probably because most of them has not actually seen the evidence that supports the Bible.
Interesting.
This guy reminds me a little bit of the mayor of New York City. So just based on that, I'm already inclined to just like not like this guy at all. He didn't have to go the extra mile and also be a deranged creationist.
That is my job, to actually show them. You're right. Most people are somewhere drifting, somewhere in the middle. This is a war for ideas. And it's my job to combat these forces of error.
And how's that going for you?
Particularly in secular campuses, in universities, which is where I work and teach, and show that the evidence supports God's word. God is a God of science.
Oh my God, I hope he's not teaching at a secular university.
Oh my goodness, my man is preaching. And this is why I am so
Completely cringe.
I'm so passionate, man, about men and women being led by the Holy
I'm also passionate about men and women, but I suspect in a very different way.
Spirit and occupying these areas of our culture: business, athletics, entertainment, education, science, medicine. We need people who are willing to champion the kingdom of God, the word of God, and bring the kingdom into those places so that people can be set free, because God's not
The big problem is you're up against people like me, and while you may listen to this and think I'm something of a joke, other people are hearing what I'm saying loud and clear, and they find it a whole hell of a lot more reasonable than what they've been taught their whole lives, which is your religion.
afraid of any of that stuff, man. God's truth wins out over everything.
Again, I will refer back to that graphic from just a little bit ago where I pointed out that, no, Christianity is on the decline in America.
And man, I'm just fired up. This guy's, I don't even know who this guy is, but he's a G, and I want to meet him someday. Here's the video that I wanted to share with you about. This guy is not like some guy on an island. More and more scientists are becoming aware and are starting to doubt things and become skeptical of things that have just kind of been jammed into us all through grade school, all through college, all through graduate school. And now you're having people who are really well educated, not fringe people.
Wrong. I mean, some of those intelligent design creationist weirdos are pretty educated and are otherwise respectable scientists outside of believing in that nonsense based on religion. So I guess, he can technically say that about some people, but these people are the fringe, and when it comes to like what they're saying about evolution and things like, the first life forms, they are on the fringe of the fringe, so far out that nobody accepts what they're saying. And, these people, they've been doing this for a long time. This is not new stuff. I mean, this stuff really originated in the 80s in its like modern form, because in the late 1980s, there was a case that made it to the Supreme Court in the United States, where it was determined that creation science was in fact just creationism, so it couldn't be taught in schools. And a couple of the people leading the creationist movement, the creation science movement, as it were, were writing a book called Of Pandas and People. And when the Supreme Court made its decision, they changed their whole book to be about intelligent design, which was a new set of buzzwords they'd made up to avoid the idea or implication of a god being involved, while still pointing to a god and dismissing evolution. And then, after some years of getting these books in schools, there was a court case, Kitzmiller versus Dover. Because in Pennsylvania, Dover, Pennsylvania, there had been a school board that put intelligent design in schools, and some parents didn't like that at all, complained about it, and sued. It was proven in court through earlier drafts of the book of Pandas and People that the people in question were just like liars and charlatans. It had been a book about creation scientists, or in creation science, and they put intelligent design in there very sloppily, resulting in some weird phrases like co-design proponentsists, which pointed very clearly to the fact that they had just changed words around, and it was the same stuff. So, of course, after that court case, intelligent design creationism could no longer be taught in schools in America. And that was 20 years ago, I think, this year. And for the past 20 years, they've gone a very different route with it. They have been doing like the online holy war sort of thing. They run a website called Evolution News. Evolution News takes any discovery involving evolution or anything like that and just like tries to tear it apart, and but also tries to seem sort of reasonable. So if you stumble upon the site, you don't immediately know it's just run by crazy people. They also run a site called mindmatters.ai where they try to link artificial intelligence to intelligent design creationism. So they are out there trying to make their case, but it's the same group of people doing this stuff. Like, the group hasn't changed in about 20-something years. It is the same exact group of people, still the same big names, and they are still every bit as wrong and rejected as they were 20 years ago when they got rightfully thrown on their asses in Dover, Pennsylvania.
You're having people all over the planet say, you know what? I think it's time that we stop referring to this theory as a law and straight up fact. And here's the clip I want to show you.
I'm skeptical of the claim.
I'm skeptical.
Discovery Science. Anybody got guesses about like who runs Discovery Science? Could it be the Discovery Institute, that intelligent design creationist rag I mentioned earlier? Why, yes. Yes, it could. Let's see some polling on that. If you say a growing number of scientists are skeptical of Darwinian theory, let's see some polling. I would like to see some polls on this. What do you want to bet they don't have any? A Scientific Descent from Darwinism is the document I mentioned earlier, where a bunch of, engineers essentially decided to dismiss the idea of evolution. It was like 1,000 people, mostly engineers. There are chemists and such. There are very few actual biologists in there, and it goes without saying, like, almost nobody in the scientific community agrees with this list, and these people. So, a Scientific Descent from Darwinism, again, mostly engineers. Surprisingly enough, engineers who design things for a living, they're trained to see design in everything. It's not surprising.
Skeptical of claims for the ability of
random mutations
And natural selection
to account for the complexity of life.
A careful examination
of the evidence
for Darwinian theory
should be encouraged.
Wow, over 1,000. Also, let's look at some of these other lists here. I think they loaded it so that like engineers would be a lower priority than other people. But let's just take a basic look at this list. You can't see it, but I can. So allow me to be your eyes and just check it out. PhD, Atmospheric Physics, Associate Professor of Mechanical Engineering. PhD Chemistry, Professor of Mathematics. PhD Physics, Associate Professor of Physics. PhD Anatomy and Neurobiology, Associate Professor of Biomedical Engineering, PhD Anthropology, PhD Mathematics, Atmospheric Researcher, Emeritus Distinguished Professor of Chemistry, PhD Meteorology, PhD Physics, PhD Physics, PhD Pharmacognosy, PhD Biochem, Professor, Center for Nutrition and Toxicology, Professor of Medicine, Chancellor, PhD Physics, PhD Analytical Chemistry, PhD Mathematics, Professor Emeritus of Physics and Engineering, PhD Chemistry, PhD High Energy Physics, PhD Mathematics, PhD Physics, Psychology, Materials Science and Engineering, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Astrophysics, Philosophy of Psychology, Senior Research Associate, Protein Chemistry, Professor of Medical Physiology, Chair and Professor of Chemistry, Professor of Biochem and Molecular Biology, Professor of Horticultural Science, PhD Chemistry, Professor Emeritus of Gynecology, PhD Philosophy of Physics, Professor of Engineering and Computer Science, Chemical Engineering, Chemistry, Organic Chemistry. So you may notice that this list is very highly tilted towards people who have nothing to do with evolution. Now, of course, there are going to be a few on any list, but most of these people have nothing to do with it, and most of these people are not in any way related to the field they are talking about, which makes their opinion worse than useless. It makes it toilet paper.
1,000 PhD scientists worldwide have signed the list.
I'm skeptical.
Skeptical.
Skeptical
Of claims
For the ability of random mutations
and natural selection
To account for
the complexity.
the complexity
the complexity.
to account for the complexity of life.
Careful examination.
I gotta say, this video is pretty well made, though. Like, that's one thing I think I can appreciate, that it's very well made, even if it is complete garbage. Every single one of these people has an objection based on not science, but religion. They're pretty transparent about all of this. I mean, not intentionally. They don't want to be transparent. They just kind of are. You can see through them very clearly.
Examination
Of the evidence.
For Darwinian theory
Should be encouraged.
Oh, he looks so pleased by it. He looks so happy about this. Like, yes, I'm so thrilled to see science going down and God going up. Like, oh my God, dude. Get over yourself. Jesus Christ. You can see there's not much going on inside this guy's head other than, yay, Jesus. Fuck's sake.
It says, I wish these things got out of the way. A scientific, what does it say?
A scientific descent from Darwinism.
The scientific descent from Darwinianism.
You are the one showing us the clip. You should at least know the name of the thing you're talking about when showing us this. I'm an atheist. I know this. Why don't you know this when you're showing us the clip and making us watch it?
Why does this matter so much? Like,
that's a good question. Why does it matter so much to religious people that they have to tear down the whole of science and imply that science is just one big conspiracy? I wonder who's behind this conspiracy. Could it be the...
you know what? The Bible talks about not getting into like foolish arguments and to be quarrelsome. And I'm not really...
Isn't that rich?
Really a quarrelsome person. At least I don't think I am. But what I am passionate about is the Word of God. Because this...
Oh my God, that was freaky. So you can't... obviously you can't tell because you're not looking at my screens. But when he reached down just now... it looked like he was reaching into my candle, which is just like right below the screen there. And like, I've been awake too long, so my brain just like hallucinated him like reaching into my candle. Oh my God, that was very odd. I need sleep, my dudes.
This Bible, this book, the Word that was inspired by God, written through man, has the power to change your life.
Yeah, so does heroin.
Has the power to save your soul, has the power to...
well, I don't think heroin can do that.
Prosper you and give you a hope and a future. And
I already have that. Why do I need your book to give me that when I already have that without a book at all? I make my own destiny, baby.
And unfortunately, too many people have discounted the reality of God and have really made science their God.
No, that's not how that works. God is a very specific idea, and science does not in any way meet that idea. Science is just this study of the natural universe. It's just figuring out how the natural universe works. That's all there is to it. There's nothing to worship. We do not go to church and sing hymns to Darwin. Although maybe we should. That would be pretty cool, I think.
When all science actually testifies that there is an intelligent designer.
No, it doesn't. And you don't know anything about science, and you know you don't know anything about science. So why are you making that claim? Learn about science. Go to school. Get educated in science. Become a scientist. Then maybe you will understand well enough to talk about it. But of course, I know he won't do that.
Who made you? You need to know this. God created you with a...
prove that.
Purpose. You are not the sum...
And you know what that purpose is? It's to worship him for all of it. It's to love him and serve him and worship him for all eternity. Here's a fun video about that.
Suppose you were walking by my house one day. You've been walking by for a long time. And I were to go up on the porch and say, hey, stop, I've got some good news. Good news for you people. Stop, stop, stop. You don't have to go down in my basement. This is great news. You've been walking by all this time. You've been ignoring me, and I deserve to be recognized and honored. And you've been ignoring me, and it's made me so angry and so mad, and I just get so horribly mad. So I built this torture chamber down in the basement. And there's some hooks down there, and there's some sharp things, and there's some vats of sneaky stuff, and there's a furnace, and there's some chains, and it's horrible, and there's flames. But you don't have to go down there. I sent my son down there. And it was gruesome. I tell you, it was really horrible. But that satisfied my anger. And now his blood was shed, and now you're free. You don't have to go down. All you have to do, come on up here. Just come up and tell my son that you love him, hug him, and then you can move in with us. We'll live up in the attic, and you can tell me how great I am. You can just tell me how much you love me, and we'll do that. Won't that be great? So would you keep walking?
That video is called You Don't Have to Go Down in My Basement, and it's by Dan Barker, who leads the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Every time I show that video, somebody asks, so I figure, hey, may as well just tell you here.
Collection of a random lab experiment that happened by accident, where
I mean, technically, isn't that more like similar to the creation story? Like, aren't humans just God's like little lab accident, basically? Isn't that like how that works?
You don't have inherent value. You don't have a soul. You don't have a purpose. Let me tell you this. Darwinian evolution.
Well, I disagree. I think I'm pretty great. I think I've got pretty cool things to do. What do you mean inherent value? Does the universe care if I live or die? No. Does this guy? Well, I'm queer, so probably not. But do I think I have value? Well, yes. Based on what? I'm human, like every other human. And if I care about other humans, then I should also be cared about. I think that's how that works.
Is the cruelest way of looking at humanity.
No, it's really not. And even if it were, it wouldn't matter, because it's not about whether something is pleasant and pleasing to your senses. It's about whether something is true or not. The story of God and the redemption of humanity, you may like it. You may like it a whole lot. You may find it so comforting. You may find it so enjoyable, so great. But is it true? Well, no.
If you believe in Darwinian evolution, there's no purpose for morality. Where would morality even come from?
Morality is subjective regardless, and I will stick by this for the long haul because, think about the Bible. You know, Moses comes down off the mountain with a series of tablets giving commandments directly from God. One of those commandments is, thou shalt not kill. But he comes down to the bottom of the mountain and sees people sacrificing to a golden calf. What does he do? He smashes the tablet and kills 3,000 people. So I guess there's a pretty heavy asterisk on there. And what happens later in the story? You know, what happens when Moses and his people finally make it to the promised land? Canaan, that area. Well, Moses doesn't make it in, obviously. God just decided to not let him make it in. But when they go there, what do? Genocide. They commit ethnic cleansing, they take slaves, they kill babies. It's a big bloody mess. And we can only be grateful that there is no evidence that any of this happened in the real world. But it does point out that your morals as a Christian are less objective than you say they are. The only objective thing in Christianity is to follow the will of God, which includes if God says you must stone gay people to death, like in the olden days, you must do that. That is not moral, unless you're like a person who believes in that stuff. And if you are a Christian, by default, you kind of do.
Where would the dignity of human life even come from? If you believe in Darwinian evolution, what you believe is survival of the fittest. If you're the most advanced, you have the right to live, and other people don't have the right to live.
No, that's not how that works. I feel like I say this a lot, but that's not how that works. Survival of the fittest is about the survival of a species, not the survival of individuals. Granted, of course, the survival of individuals is important to the survival of the species, but it's not so much about like competition within the same species, although that is a thing that happens, but like it's about the species surviving. It's survival of the fitness, baby. So what helps humans survive and thrive? Well, it's when we form communities and work together. That's what's allowed humanity to become the dominant species on the planet Earth, to just like rule over the whole planet. We work together like no other species on Earth, save, ants or something, who are probably next in line to take over the planet. But we work together, we build communities. We try to love each other, even if we're very different. I mean, think about the communities we form. New York City, how diverse that place is. Other cities, how diverse they are. We build communities out of people who are very different than us. And that's what makes us so strong and so powerful. And that is what we've gotten from evolution. Evolution has given us our community building instincts that make this possible. We want to build communities. We want to create community. We want to be nice to each other. We want to love one another. Now, we do care about ourselves a lot. We always look out for number one, because we have to survive too. But in the end, there are very few people who just like stick completely to themselves and want nothing to do with society or anything like that.
It's demonic. The Bible says that God created man.
Demonic? What?
Man and woman.
Where did that come from?
In his own image. You need to know that you have inherent value. Doesn't matter what race you come from, doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter if you were born with some sort of physical infirmity. God sees you and dignifies your life. Jesus looks at...
What does that mean? Dignifies your life? Yeah, I think I have a lot more dignity not getting on my knees and worshiping a man. Although I have done that sometimes in a different way, which is kind of fun. Can I say that on YouTube? I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. Either way, your ears have now heard it. You're welcome.
It's your life and says you were worth creating and you were even worth dying for. I
don't want anybody to die for me. I mean, in any situation, I'd be the one dying for somebody else. I've told this story before, but I saved my uncle's life when I was much younger, and I could have died in that situation, and I was perfectly willing to do that. But I wouldn't want anybody to like die for me. I was willing to die for somebody else, and I probably would be again, depending on the person. But like, I don't want anybody to do that for me.
Darwinian evolutionary mindset or philosophy on the universe is cruel, is cold, and it leaves you empty. And ultimately, if you want the truth, believing in that and not believing in what God's word says will take you down a path of destruction, separation from God forever, with weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Now, this is some fantastic preaching, my brother, in silliness. But I think we're going to call it here because, he's just going on the same old little, like, gotta, puff up that time a little bit. Gotta put some more ads in there. I mean, again, this guy has over 1 million followers somehow. And, well, okay, he is very pleasant to look at. I'll give him that. And you may disagree. I mean, obviously, he is kind of like, he does have that, like, lost in the headlights kind of look about him because there's probably not much going on in there. But, I don't know, he's kind of cute. You can disagree all you want. I don't care. Disagree with me. He's kind of cute. He got a good smile. Probably the reason why he's so popular. I don't know, because, like, there's not really, like, anything else worth seeing here. And this has been a big waste of time, and I'm sorry for wasting all of your time. But I hope, regardless, you have a good one. Thanks for watching.